Are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
There are things that we experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in a corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us, share your story, share your evidence, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is Ghostbox Radio.
And this is Ghostbox Radio on AM 950, where every week we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, or just the unusual. My name is Greg Bakken, and thank you very much for joining me on what is a absolutely beautiful Sunday afternoon. What a great day. And thank you for listening to me on such a nice day. Hopefully you have me on in a boat or something really nice. I just don't want to burn in the sun. Just be careful of that. Now, Adam.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been to a Disney theme park?
I have, and it was absolutely a blast. We went there for band tour a number of years ago.
Which one did you go to?
We went to the one in California.
The original, you might say.
The original one out in California. That one, it was an absolute blast. I think I was sophomore year of high school, so about 16.
Well, and I'm going to say, and we'll talk about this throughout the show, is that I've been to Walt Disney World a number of times, but I've been to Disneyland once as well. And there's something very special. I mean, it's a much smaller park than Walt Disney World. Everything's cramped together. And when I went to Disneyland, they were building the second park there, which was taking up the entire parking lot of the original Disneyland.
Oh, right on, yeah.
But there's something unique about going to that place, because that is where literally it's Walt Disney's, and I'm very curious about that. And so today we're going to be talking about the spirit of Walt Disney, and I don't mean like the spirit of adventure. I'm talking about his spirit. I'm talking about whether or not Disneyland, what is haunted in Disneyland. And I got somebody here today who I've known for some time, and I've been wanting to ask him on, and I'm really excited. I think we're going to have a great conversation today. Michael J. Corey has known of his psychic abilities since his childhood, when he saw his first ghost, a Catholic nun who appeared to him at her private chapel up in the hills of hometown Burbank, California. The nun invited him to pray with her, and afterwards she told him God had a special gifts to give him to help people better understand the truth of life and death. At 8 years old, Michael didn't understand her until years later, when he was invited to take part in a study on psychic children under the direction of Dr. Thelma Moss, PhD at UCLA. It was there that Michael learned more about why he could see, hear, and communicate with spirits just about everywhere he went, including school, at church, and places like Disneyland. Michael saw Walt Disney's ghost for the first time when he was 7 years old, which you'll read about in his newest book, his 75th published title of his incredible career. Now, Dr. Moss took Michael on paranormal investigations with her team, and later introduced him to celebrities in Hollywood whom he read for. In later years, Michael was one of the psychic mediums who read for Ronald and Nancy Reagan, Princess Diana of Wales, movie and TV stars, and average people alike. He has appeared on national, international radio, television, and podcasts, and is one of the only psychic mediums who investigates and writes his own books. We're going to discuss his new book, Real Ghosts Who Haunt the Happiest Place on Earth, Disneyland, on the show today. To learn more about Michael, make sure you visit his website It is icghosts.com. And just know those are letters. IC are 2 letters, ghosts.com. Michael, welcome to Ghostbox Radio.
Hello, Michael. Are you there?
Call from
Michael Curry.
Hi, Michael. Are you there?
to accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
His bio blew even him away.
I think so. Michael, are you with us?
Yeah, I got disconnected.
All right, excellent. Yeah, as soon as I flip over to you to unmute you, you're gone. It's like, oh no, Walt took him away.
So Michael,
All of a sudden, there was no sound at all, and then it just hung up. It went to the dial tone, and I tried to call you back, and I couldn't get through. There was a busy signal. So sometimes that happens. I mean, people think it's weird, but ghosts really are electricity, and they are connected.
And actually,
to
in Greg's
electrical
studio,
devices.
the lights have been flickering in Greg's studio also as well. It's made me look over a couple of times to our strobe for callers calling in. I've honestly had to do 2 double takes because they are flickering in Greg's studio.
yeah, there's a lot.
I believe it.
A lot of stuff going on, but it also doesn't help that this station, as much as we love it, was built at the time of Christ. So it's, there is something to be said about that. Some of the stuff was, I think, donated after World War II. Before we get too far into things, I just would like to invite all of our listeners to join into the conversation. To do so, if you want to ask Michael a question as we go through stuff, you can call in at 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. Or email us a comment or a question. The email address for the station is comment@am950radio.com. We are live on AM 950 Radio, but also streaming video on the following Facebook pages. You can watch us on AM 950, Things Network, MN Ghostbox, Free Spirited Network, RU Media, Skeleton Key Network, and Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. So please go there and support those pages too. Leave your questions and comments there. I'll be checking the pages all around. First of all, I don't know how much you heard, but I've been to a number of the parks, but I've only been to Disneyland once. But that was kind of transcendent in a way, because you really do feel like, Michael, that you are walking the same steps that Walt Disney would walk.
Oh, absolutely. And you are.
Literally.
You have to realize that Walt Disney, that was his dream. I often say he was a dreamer and a schemer. And I don't say schemer in a negative way at all, but Walt Disney was absolutely a dreamer, and he was really brilliant in his life. Everything he put his mind to that he wanted to succeed at, he did. I remember as a little kid, my mom used to say that to me: you can do anything you put your mind to. And that's absolutely true. Look at me. My God, I published 75 books on my own. I became my own publisher after I got ripped off by a major publishing house with one of my first books. And they didn't pay me the right amount of money, and I had to sue them. And so a friend of mine from college said, you know what? I'll teach you how to become a publisher. There's nothing to it. And I've been publishing my own books ever since. But, I'm one of the only people, I am the only person who's ever written a book about the ghost of Walt Disney. And that's the book that you have, The Ghost of Walt Disney and Me.
Yep.
And I even had Disney people say, oh, don't call it that. Don't talk about his ghost. Talk about his spirit. I said, well, but it's really his ghost. His ghost is what haunts the early studio, which is now a supermarket. And they have things happen there all the time. Things fly off the shelves.
And for people... And for people who don't know, that's the Hyperion studio. That's
correct.
Not necessarily his original, though, right? Because he had other studios for his Ellis comedies and Oswald and stuff. But
he had a little tiny studio first,
like a
storefront, that was his uncle's garage.
Okay, yes.
And then after that, he rented a storefront on Kingswell Drive in Los Feliz, which is a suburb of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And that building is still there, and there's a little plaque there. And he lived with his uncle on that street, and that house is still there. And then he and his brother Roy rented an apartment across the street in a big house, a 2-story house that's also still there. And it just looks like a regular neighborhood. But couple of years ago, that house that his uncle owned went up for sale, and Disney fans were in outrage that the studio wouldn't buy it or the family wouldn't buy it, but they don't need it. It's just a house.
Yeah.
But they were afraid it was going to be torn down. And I'd been through the house. I actually looked into buying it myself, but of course they wanted way too much money, and the neighborhood's not great. And the garage is gone. The garage was moved.
Oh.
It's now down in Garden Grove near the park.
That's right.
And it's in a living studio where they have all kinds of old historic buildings. But it's not haunted. I mean, I've never felt anything, paranormal in there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. When I walk into Disneyland, I immediately start to see spirits. Now, I don't know if you told the audience, because I didn't hear this part in my bio. I've noted my gift since I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Yep.
And I saw my first ghost when I was 8, and it was a Catholic nun who lived in Burbank, where I grew up. And but she lived there, 60 years before I came into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And she built a school there. It was an orphanage, and it became a school. My mom went to high school there. It was called Villa Cabrini Academy. And her name was Mother Cabrini. She was born in Italy and came to America to work with the orphans of the Italian immigrants who came here for a better life at that time. And anyway, so she built 62 orphanages all over the country, and then they all became schools.
Mm-hmm.
And she was miraculous. She had the same gifts that Christ had. And I mean, in one place, I think it was Denver, Colorado, the nuns went there. They were given a piece of land, but it was up in the hills, and it was all rock and dust and dirt and cactus. And they needed water, and there was no water there. And Mother Cabrini prayed and prayed and prayed. And she took a staff and she said, "You dig here." And the nuns started digging, and sure enough, a spring popped up. Well, that spring is still running today, and the water has healed thousands of people from, being blind and whatnot.
Wow.
So if you believe in miracles,
miraculous,
and you believe
water.
in God, then you have to believe in ghosts, because ghosts are not the evil demons of the underworld. Saying a place is haunted doesn't say that it's evil. That's Hollywood in the movies. But in reality, it just means that there's spiritual presence there. And I've been on other shows where I've talked about Walt Disney's ghost, and I had religious zealots that call in and say, "How dare you say that Walt Disney is a restless spirit, and he's wandering Disneyland and haunting all these places? He's not negative. He was never a negative person."
No. You know what,
and
Michael?
I have to correct them and remind them that it's not about being negative,
Right. Michael, why don't we do this? Because I want to talk more about Walt Disney. I want to make sure that we have a chance to kind of really let that breathe. Let's take our first break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Michael J. Corey as we talk about haunted Disneyland and haunted Walt Disney. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
If you own a holistic or metaphysical business and are looking to expand, then you need to be listed on metamorphosisconnections.com. It's a network where you can grow with like-minded practitioners and reach new clients. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory you need to list yourself and your business. Our platform makes it easy for you to create listings of your products and services, and you can also choose to list your classes, events, and so much more. Metamorphosisconnections.com helps you create weekly and monthly promotional ads targeted towards your potential clients and promotes them for you via social media and newsletter. There are clients searching for your specialty right now. Let us help them find you. Start your listing today so you can share your own unique gifts and talents by finding the level of membership that best fits your needs. Let us help you reach your clients that are searching for what you do. Visit metamorphosisconnections.com and sign up today.
Hey, it's Patrick. There's a lot to celebrate this month. Graduations, the end of the school year approaching, barbecues, and the warm weather months ahead. Celebrate in a clean home by calling the cleaning pros at Zero Res. You know Zero Res is the zero residue carpet cleaners that don't leave behind any of the dirt-attracting soaps and chemicals that other carpet cleaners use. Their friendly carpet cleaning technicians always walk me through their entire carpet cleaning process and make sure I'm completely satisfied with my cleaning before they leave. Just check out the 15,800 raving customer reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating. Schedule today and get 3 rooms of carpet zero resified starting at just $129, which is a $40 savings and takes $75 off your air duct cleaning. Make sure to mention you want the AM 950 special. Book with ease at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 9520-RES. Zero Res, backward or forward, spells the same.
We know you love your pets, so make sure to listen to the Pet Buzz. This week on the show, pet trendologist Charlotte Reed and Dr. Michael Fleck will have more celebrity pet news, global pet news, Dr. Fleck with Flex Facts, Tell Me Something Good, plus more great interviews. That's this week on the Pet Buzz, enhancing the bond between pets and their people.
Listen to the Pet Buzz every Sunday at 11 on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
And welcome back to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bach, and thank you for joining us today. Our guest today is psychic medium, author Michael J. Curry, as we talk about Haunted Disneyland. And to learn more about Michael, to see all the books he's published, a lot of great stuff on his website, go to icghosts.com. Once again, the IC are letters, so it's icghosts.com. Now, Michael, I wanted to kind of move on, if you don't mind, and talk a little bit about, in your bio, you said that you had your first time that you've encountered the ghost of Walt Disney was when you're 7. I would love to hear about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, my family used to go to Disneyland once a year. My parents would take the last 2 weeks of August off for their vacation, and we would always go to Disneyland because my parents loved it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular day, we were shopping in the Adventureland Bazaar, which is a store. And I was, a little kid. I might have been 6. I don't remember exactly my age, but my older brother and sister were playing in the clothes racks, and they were going underneath and hiding in there and kind of playing hide and go seek while my mom was shopping and my dad was, looking around too. Anyway, I got lost and I was really upset. I couldn't find my mom and dad anywhere, or my siblings. And so, of course, like any other little kid, I started crying. And this kind old man came up to me, and I remember him. He was wearing a red sweater, and it was buttoned down the front, and khaki pants and nice shoes. And he looked down at me and he said, no, you can't cry here. Mickey Mouse wouldn't like that. And I looked up and he said, why are you crying? And I said, I lost my mommy and daddy. I can't find them anywhere. And he put out one of his big hands and he says, well, come on, I'll help you find them. Let's go look for them. Where did you see them last? So he took me by the hand and we went into the store and we were looking all over the place and couldn't find them. And then we went across to another store that's over by the Jungle Cruise, and they used to sell pickles and apples and stuff there. And we looked there and couldn't find them there either. And the store, the Adventureland Bazaar, used to be connected to a series of stores with, one doorway into another. And so we went into the next store, and there I saw my mom, and she was at the register paying.
Mm-hmm.
And I released his hand. I ran over to her, grabbed her leg, was hugging her tight, And my mom looked down and she said, where have you been? We've been looking everywhere for you. And I said, that nice old man over there took me and we were trying to find you. And my mom looked up and she said, what old man? And my dad looked over too. And so did the checker who was checking them out. And the three of the adults looked over and they saw him, and he was disappearing in front of their eyes.
Wow. So all these people
and
are seeing him too.
My dad said to the checker, that looks like Walt Disney, but didn't he die a few years ago? And the checker was literally as white as a sheet. So later that day, we went to see the show Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen that, but it's a wonderful animatronic show. It was the first audio animatronic that the company made for the New York World's Fair in 1964. Anyway, so we went to see the show. And at the end, when you leave the theater, you walk down a hallway and they have all these pictures of famous people, famous Americans on the wall. And there was a picture of Walt Disney there. And I ran over to it and I said, look, Dad, look, Mommy, that's the man. There he is. And it was Walt Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were just stunned. Now, my mom was very psychic too. I'm a Pisces. She was a Pisces. My dad was a Scorpio. And water signs are usually the most psychic of the signs, astrological signs. And so they had the gift a little bit too, but I'm the one that was sort of, more mediumistic.
Mm-hmm.
And in later years, we went every year to Disneyland in August. So 2 years later, we went back there, and I looked up in the firehouse window up above, and I saw a man looking out the window, and he looked at me and he waved, and it was Walt Disney. And to this day, I'm now in my 50s. Whenever I go to Disneyland, I almost always see him in the firehouse, which was his private apartment. And he built that so that he could, be there during the building of Disneyland, and he could watch over the supervisors and the employees and make sure they were building, the buildings the way he wanted it, following the directions and things. And he helped out too. And he also had offices all over Disneyland in back rooms of the facade buildings. He had a private dining room that was in a building that's now a restaurant called the Plaza Inn. And the private dining room has been changed. It's now a storeroom, but I've been in there. And I'm also a singer. I don't know if you mentioned that or knew that.
No.
But I've sung at Disneyland several times. I've studied opera, but I sing in all different genres of music. So I've done a lot of Disney shows at Christmas and whatnot, and solos and things. And they turned that into a green room for the Christmas pageant. So I was in that room, and I actually saw Walt in there. And I saw his brother Roy and a couple of other spirits who I didn't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
But at first I heard them talking, and I wasn't sure what they were talking about. And at that moment, I was in the room by myself, and I heard these men talking, and I looked around, and I kind of went into a light trance because I realized it must have been spirit voices. And there's a difference between human voices and spirit voices. I know you understand that because you work with your Ghostbox.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the voice was a little bit softer. And I tried to really hone in on the conversation, and they were arguing about money and some other buildings that Walt wanted to build. And Roy was saying, we don't have the money. We can't get the sponsors. And then I started giggling a little bit, and the voices stopped. And then I heard a door close, and I looked behind me, and there was no door on that wall. So that means that the room had been altered. At one time, there must have been a door, maybe to an inner office. But through the years, they changed it, and the door no longer existed. Then a woman came in to usher me out to the area where I would be doing my Christmas solos. And I asked her, I said, has this room been altered? And she says, how do you know that? And I said, well, what was it before? And she goes, well, it was a private dining room, but beyond this wall, there was a door here, and that was Walt's private office. And he had a typewriter and a phone, and he did his business there. He called the studio and whatnot, and it was behind the kitchen. So it was interesting. She was blown away that I knew that. But that's one other aspect of my psychic abilities. I just know things about people, and I know things about the spirits. So I had that encounter with them. Then years later, I got to meet Roy Disney Jr., who was Roy Sr.'s son and Walt's nephew. He was in charge of Disney Studios for a while.
Yep.
I went to an event, and he was there, and he came up to me, and we started chatting. And he says, I know who you are. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, you're that psychic guy. I've seen you on TV, on Oprah and the View and all kinds of shows. And he goes, I always wanted to meet you. I said, well, here I am. And we laughed, and we started chatting. We ended up sitting together at the dinner that we were at. And then afterwards, he invited me to come with him to meet him at his office for lunch. So I took him up on it, got his card. I called him the next day and set up a meeting. And that day I went to his office in Burbank, and he says, what are you doing for the rest of the day? I said, nothing. I'm here with you all day. Why? And he goes, well, I was thinking I'd like to take you down to Disneyland and take you to lunch at Club 33, which is the private club in the park. Do you know about that?
I do. And you know what we need to do? Let's you're kind of keep going along, so I'm going to have to take a break here. So let's take another break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation, finish this story with Michael J. Corey. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
The world has changed. Our economy has changed. And now, more than ever, it's important that your retirement savings is set up to generate income, real money in your bank account month after month while still controlling your principal. And that's what we do. We're Ferguson Financial. We set up people for retirement income. Call us today, 888-429-5569, and check out our retirement income program, Sunday mornings at 9.
Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast in Minneapolis on the corner of 29th and Johnson for a delicious meal any time of the day. Breakfast favorites include Jean's Mean Fried Egg Sandwich and the Drunken Banana French Toast. While for dinner, try selections like the fabulous Swedish meatballs or wild rice gumbo. Hazel's Northeast is located on the corner of 29th Avenue and Johnson Street, just a few minutes away from 35W. View Hazel's menu, make a reservation, or place a takeout order at hazelsnetogo.com.
This is New Beginnings, hosted by award-winning broadcaster and speaker Freddie Bell.
Freddie, this generation of the baby boomers, people are living longer, so the baby boomers are taking care of elderly parents.
Let's talk about your health, and specifically, let's talk about Medicare. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, and even entertainment.
Join us for New Beginnings, Saturday mornings at 11, brought to you in part by Vision Loss Resources.
Hi, I'm Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. We know dental anxiety and dental phobia are real. We'll take the time to get to know you and give you what you need to be comfortable at all times. We offer free nitrous oxide laughing gas and have high-tech options to help you feel calm and relaxed during your appointments. We'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been going to Shamblat Family Dentistry for years. They get me in last minute when I'm in pain and make regular checkups easy and comfortable.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
And have you got your tickets yet for our Anderson House Weekend with Dave Schrader? That's going to be happening Friday, August 18th, and ends up on Sunday, August 20th. This is going to be at the very haunted Anderson House Hotel in Wabasha, Minnesota. This is the first time that Dave Schrader has investigated this location, which makes it really cool. You get the whole weekend with him, Friday through Sunday. You're going to be able to have some investigations. We're going to do a lot of one-on-one, get a really good opportunity to talk with Dave and have a great conversation and have the opportunity to investigate with him at a location he has not investigated before. I think you're going to have a great time with that. And if you book the whole weekend at the Anderson House Hotel for your room, Friday through Sunday, you'll get Thursday free. And Thursday night, we're going to have some fun too. So definitely check it all out. If you want to join and get some tickets and see the details, go to charvinity.com /event-list. You just go to Charvinity.com. Events are on the upper part of the webpage. Go check it out. It's going to be a great weekend. We hope to see you there. We are selling tickets, but there's still some to get. So please go and get your ticket, or at least check it out. If you have any questions, let us know. Also on Thursday, this coming Thursday, May 25th at 7 p.m., I am going to be co-hosting with Char Thought Leader Thursday for Metamorphosis Connections. This is an interactive Q&A with owner Char Savoy, and I will be asking her questions. Part of it is I have questions about all this wonderful stuff that they're doing, and it's just thought it'd be a good idea for me to be able to ask questions, get some answers everyone can hear. You can ask questions as well. That is live this Thursday, May 25th at 7 p.m. It's a Facebook Live. So you can go to MN Ghostbox, Charvinity, Metamorphosis Connections, all on Facebook. You'll be able to see all that and join in the conversation. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Now, if you miss Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken Live, AM 950 replays these episodes Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or you can listen anytime by going to Spotify or iTunes. After listening, please leave a positive review for my show. Also, one other little project that we're working on, we're calling it 5 Days, and that's going to come out in June. A little bit more information about that, but keep your ears peeled. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to change things quite a bit. So, it's some exciting stuff going on here. Now, our guest today is psychic medium author Michael J. Curry. As we talk about Haunted Disneyland, to learn more about Michael, go to icghosts.com. And hopefully, Michael, you remember that I'm here too. Give me a chance to talk as well today. You're kind of going off the rails on me a little bit. I'm going to be honest.
Well, you asked me to tell stories, and that's what I do.
Yep. I just feel free to take a break.
If you want to ask a question, just interrupt me. I won't be insulted.
Oh, I will. I certainly will. So the thing is here is that with the whole Walt Disney thing, with your experience with him early, like when you were 7, I just find it very fascinating that he dresses as we have seen him in his programs, in like The Wonderful World of Color. That red sweater is a very much like what he did and stuff. And, Adam had questioned during the break whether or not, do you want to ask the question, Adam?
Yeah, you were talking about the conversation you were hearing with Roy Disney Sr., Walt, and a third individual, then you heard the door close. And yet at the same time, we've also had Walt take your hand and guide you. Are we getting a mixture of residual and intelligent haunts there at Disneyland involving Walt and the people around him? Is that what you're feeling when you go through there?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's possible, but I can't tell you if it's just residual energy, because Walt is in a lot of different places. When I wrote the book, The Ghost of Walt Disney and Me, it's not just about his spirit, it's about his life too. And I interviewed over 450 people that knew him, worked with him every day. I also met his wife and his daughters. I interviewed them and other family members. They shared things about him, with me. I talked to people that worked with him every day, his secretary, and they all shared interesting tidbits of things about him. I asked questions like, well, what was he like on a daily basis? Did you ever see him angry? Did he swear? What kind of swear words did he use? I asked the daughters, did he ever punish you? Did he spank you? And Diane said to me, nobody's ever asked me that before. It was interesting. But I wanted to know what the man was like, because I felt that when I do see him, when I first started to see him, of course, I was a little kid. But as I got older and I saw him at the studio or different places, I worked at Walt Disney Studios off and on for 10 years. And I would feel his presence there in different places, especially in his old office.
Do you feel...
And I would hear conversations up there. So I wondered the same question. Was I listening in on, information that had already taken place?
Yep.
Or are the spirits still doing what they did when they were alive on the other side? Are they still working? There are a lot of people that believe that Albert Einstein and Henry Ford and the people that created and invented in our world are still working and doing scientific experiments on the other side. But no one knows that for sure because no one's been able to come back and say, oh, yeah, I had a conversation with Henry Ford when I died and they brought me back to life and here I am, So you don't hear about those things very often.
Do you
But
think
your
that
question's very valid and it's very
do you
possible
think,
that
I'm interrupting you. Do you think that Walt Disney recognizes you, that he knows you?
yes, absolutely. I'll tell you how I know.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working on this book, I was in my home studio one day and I was writing an interview. I'd interviewed some people, a movie star, Julie Andrews, actually, and Dick Van Dyke. I had lunch with them and I asked them some specific questions about him. And Julie had told me a story of something that happened to her, which I won't reveal here. They'll have to buy the book and read it there. But the interesting thing was, as I was typing, I heard, I live alone. I have no pets. I don't smoke. But I heard somebody near me in my office clearing their throat. And all of a sudden, my office filled up with cigarette smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't smoke. And nobody around me does. And I lived in a guest cottage. So it was quite a ways away from the owner's house in the front. And anyway, then I heard a voice and he said, no, it didn't happen like that, Michael. It happened like this. And it was the voice of Walt Disney.
Wow.
Now,
and
not
so
to cut you off, was
reiterated
this
the story and told me the way it really happened between he and these other people, what we were talking about.
And a quick question
So
about that. Before we went
Yeah.
on the air, you talked about how you had pencils from Walt's desk. Do you think
That's
he's
correct.
possibly attached to some of those pencils? Like, did you have any of that stuff of Walt's prior to you hearing him while you're working on that book?
Absolutely.
Right on. So
Absolutely.
you think he could be attached to those pencils?
Sure.
Now,
Very
were those
possible.
and those were straight out of his personal business desk that is now the firehouse there at Disneyland, right?
No, that's the studio.
No,
He got
That's
him
the
out.
studio.
That was
Okay,
just
the
the
studio.
studio,
Gotcha,
the
not the office. Right on.
Right. The pencils came from his desk at the studios in Los Feliz, which is really Silver Lake. So they were with him probably in the Kingswell studio, then came with him to the studio in Silver Lake. And that was the studio that's now a Market. And now the studio is in Burbank. But
Oh, okay.
you have to
that
read
follows
about
it.
that online and stuff. But
Okay.
let me tell you something else that's really interesting, and it goes with your question. My grandfather worked at the studios, many of the different studios, in many different aspects. He was a driver. He worked as a grip. He worked as an assistant. In those days, you did whatever needed to be done. If the director needed you to hold a light and you were standing around, you held the light for them to shoot. Anyway, my grandfather worked for Walt Disney a couple of times, drove he and his wife to the airport when they were going to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got back, he picked them up. And my grandfather was bald. And one day they were in the limousine and Walt was wearing this hat. And it was a green velvet hat and it had these little pins on it. And he bought it, I guess, in Austria. And it was a typical hat that Austrian men wore when they went mountain climbing and stuff. Anyway, he's wearing it. And my grandfather said, nice hat, Walt. And my grandfather Lillian said, I don't like it. And Walt says, well, I do. Anyway, they got to their house and my grandfather went to get the bags out of the car to bring them to the front, the front room or the foyer or whatever. And Walt had said, no, Mel, don't worry about it. We'll get the bags. I'll have my guy come and get them. And he says, no, I'll do it. So he took them in the house. Lillian took the hat off Walt's head, put it on my grandfather's head and said, here, Mel, this looks better on you. And it'll keep you from getting sunburned. And Walt laughed and he says, it's a good thing I bought a second hat. Well, anyway, I now own that hat.
That's nice.
My grandfather left it to me and I have it. I have several other things that belong to Walt Disney. I'm also a prop collector. I collect props from films and TV shows. And I have a lot of objects that came from estate sales from movie and TV stars and, famous people. So I've been collecting since I was a little kid. And I used to go with my grandfather when he worked on Bewitched to the studios.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched them film and stuff. So I've always had a fascination with that. But it's very possible that Walt is attracted or attached to his hat and the pencils and some of the other things that I own that came from his estate. his wife and I became good friends. That's a story in one of my books, which I won't go into here because it's too long. But we were friends for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to their house several times. And this is an interesting connection to this story about Walt and my first encounter with him at Disneyland. So I didn't tell her right off the bat that I was a medium. I don't always tell people because some people in those days were afraid, and I didn't want to scare them. I didn't want to be like Casper the Friendly Ghost and not have friends, and that happened to many psychics that I know. So we were talking one day, and she took me into the library, and I saw his desk in their library, and he had beautiful books of like Cinderella and Peter Pan and whatnot that were autographed by the authors who wrote them. Not to him, but they were autographed, and he bought them at auctions and things for his book collection. Anyway, so she showed me a book that was falling apart, and she said, I'm afraid I'm going to have to throw this away because it's disintegrating. I said, no, there's a binder in Glendale. You can have that restored. And so I said, I'll get the name for you and give you their number. And she says, well, are you going to be going over there anytime soon? I said, yes, I have some books to take over myself. And she says, well, why don't you just take this book? And she handed me a book of Peter Pan.
Oh, wow.
It was signed by Barry, the author. And it was signed
That's
in
cool.
1939 or something. So she trusted me with the book. And I said, sure. So I put her down on the desk, and she said, would you like to sit in my husband's chair? I said, oh, can I? She said, sure. So I did. Anyway, then I told her the story about meeting her husband when I was a little kid. And somehow we got into the subject of ghosts because I heard some doors close, and she jumped a little bit. And I think it made her nervous. I think she knew that he was in the house.
Sure.
Because that was the house he lived in when he died. But he died in a hospital,
Yeah.
So then we heard coughing, and it sounded like his cough. And again, she looked a little freaked out. And the only other person there was the housekeeper who made us lunch. And she was outside doing something. And I said to Mrs. Disney, I said, is Walt here with us right now? And she said, oh, you heard that? And I said, yes. And I smelled Old Spice cologne, and that was his cologne. He wore that. And she said, well, sometimes I think he's with us, but I'm not exactly sure. And I said, you smell that? It smells like Old Spice. And I'd used the restroom in the house. There was a restroom in the downstairs area near his office, near the library. And there was a bottle of Old Spice on the sink. And I said, I noticed on the sink there was a bottle of Old Spice. And she said, oh, yes, that was Walt's favorite cologne. And I just don't have the heart to throw it away. And when the grandkids come over, they just know that Papa's there and they just feel him. So we started talking about ghosts. So I told her the story about the bazaar and the sweater and all of that. Well, Walt had a hole in the pocket of that sweater. And when I first saw him, before he held my hand, he had his hand in the sweater and one of his fingers was poking through the hole. He must have had a nervous habit of sticking his finger in and out of that little hole like people do. Anyway, so she said, wait a minute. And she left the room and she went in the hall, and I heard a door open and close, and she came out with a sweater hanging on a coat hanger. And it was the red sweater.
Wow.
And she said, is this the sweater he wore? And I said, oh my God. And I started tearing up. I started crying.
That's incredible. I got to stop you there.
Sweater.
Yes. And let's take our last break. When we come back, we're going to finish our conversation with Michael J. Corey as we talk about Haunted Disneyland. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I want to tell you about a better, more environmentally friendly way to care for your lawn with Natural Lawn. Natural Lawn has been treating Minnesota lawns for more than 20 years with organic-based natural products that feed the soil without unnecessary chemicals. That means an envy-worthy, healthier lawn that's safer for your family and your furry friends. Natural Lawn has no contracts and is 100% satisfaction guaranteed. So let Natural Lawn handle your lawn care so you can enjoy your lawn. More at naturallawn.com.
This is Mike Moen from Minnesota News Connection. You may have heard my stories on AM 950. Minnesota News Connection is surveying listeners to learn how to better report on issues important to you. Go to mnnewssurvey.com, fill it out, and you'll be entered to win a $50 Target gift card. Once again, mnnewssurvey.com to help improve the news and enter to win a $50 Target gift card. Thanks, and we look forward to your response at mnnewssurvey.com.
Hey, Cudahy, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with Native news that you won't hear anywhere else. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with MetamorphosisConnections.com. MetamorphosisConnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search MetamorphosisConnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on MetamorphosisConnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting MetamorphosisConnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's MetamorphosisConnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Hi, this is Ken Hagelund, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our live call-in talk show airing every Saturday from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights you need to know to live and age well. Each week, we talk with guests who provide answers to important questions regarding healthcare, elder care, end-of-life care, and self-care for caregivers, and help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 on AM 950 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
And for our final segment, we return to our guest today, psychic medium author Michael J. Curry, as we talk about Haunted Disneyland. To learn more about Michael, go to icghosts.com. Those are the letters, IC, then ghosts.com. Lots of great information there. Michael, you know, we have roughly about 4 minutes left. When was the first documented sighting of Walt Disney in Disneyland after he passed?
I don't know that answer to that question. I have no idea. My book is based on my own investigations, my own feelings and things. I've asked that question of many people, but they didn't have an answer. You know, in those days, they weren't really focused on the paranormal. It wasn't so openly discussed like it is today. Things were very hush-hush and quiet because people were afraid of those things back then. But if they get a copy of my new book, which is not out yet, it won't be out until February or March of next year. I had a lot of problems during COVID in finishing the book, getting the paper, and, you know, with all the problems with the shipments from China and stuff. But anyway, the book is called Real Ghosts Who Haunt, The Happiest Place on Earth, Disneyland. And it will explain a lot more in detail. There are lots of stories in there that we didn't even get to touch on today. So unfortunate you have so many commercials on this show because there isn't enough time for the guests to, you know, talk too much. But I understand you have to do that. You know, that's how it is.
We do.
But those are the sponsors. They need to get their 2 cents in.
Well, Michael,
but,
I just
learn more about that in the book.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you very much for being on the show today. We're going to finish up the segment with something else that we've been kind of needing to do. Michael J. Curry, definitely go check out icghosts.com. Learn about Haunted Disney, Haunted Disneyland. Thank you so very much for being on the show with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Whoops. So I just wanted to end the program, Adam. Remember last week you had talked about your experience.
Yes.
And I had someone send me something after the show to talk about what they were feeling. They were a psychic medium.
Oh, perfect.
And so we have a few minutes left. I just wanted to make sure that we got to this because it's kind of closing the loop from last week.
Mm-hmm.
And this person, I didn't get permission to use her name, so I'm not going to use it, but I'll tell you afterwards.
And I'm sure it's somebody I've met working the show. So.
Yeah, actually, she had been on before.
Right on.
So she says, so maybe activity, because remember, there was this window, and I mean, I'm not telling you remember, it's just for people who are listening. So maybe the activity was happening previous with the orbs and stuff. Tim was possibly suffering some form of mental illness or substance abuse and had his bed near the window. Combination of illness and activity he couldn't understand. One day he just jumped. He doesn't want the bed near the window so it doesn't happen to someone else. I don't know. Quick thought, but cool story minus poor Tim.
That makes sense because we're 20, 21-year-old college students. Obviously, we have substances in said apartments. I'm a radio student. The other two people were TV students at Brown. You went to Brown.
Yep.
You know what happened with the basement trolls down there.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot of beer and a lot of weed 24/7 between the TV and radio people. And that makes absolute sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting because after the show last week, you and I kind of talked about it, and we kind of, not quite as in depth as this, but we had thought about something about the window, like trying to keep people away from it. That Tim didn't want stuff at the window.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like you have time for the rest of the story?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
All right. So once we moved the bed away from the window, and the orbs did continue.
Yep.
But we never had any more issues with items being moved, except one thing. Shortly before I ended up moving out of the apartment, there was a girl I was dating at the time. She, native blood, she would, towards the end there, would not want to go to my apartment. She goes, every time I crossed that threshold, it felt like that I was walking in molasses. And then years later with my wife, we ended up going back to that old apartment, and I just wanted to show her where it was and everything. And you could feel it as you pulled into the parking lot. And then we went around the back because I wanted to show her there's no way the lights could have been from a car for those orbs coming in through the other balcony. And we saw a black mass on that balcony. So I'm not 100% sure if Tim is at rest or whomever is living there now is making the same mistake Leonard, Jeremy, and I made.
It seems like that there's just stuff happening there.
Oh, yeah.
Is kind of how I kind of personally took it, whether I'm right or wrong. It just seems like that is like some sort of bed of activity.
And it's right there in the river valley. It's in Egan. And that area feels fun, if you will. But you can always get all weird like feelings in that entire area, all the way down Cliff Road through Highway 13. I love that area personally. I would love to move back to that area at some point, but it does feel off, but fun.
Yeah. And, we talked last week, and we have just a couple, less than a minute left. It's interesting how we talked about there are places that you can just drive into, like areas, and that you just get that feeling, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Just absolutely amazing.
And I'm not sure if it's ley lines in the earth, or if it's just the energy of or if there's a portal there because there's an energy build. Who knows?
Good. So as I end up the show, I just wanted to do another thank you to Michael J. Corey for being on today. It was great talking with him about Haunted Disneyland. Make sure that you go to icghosts.com to check on his new book and stuff. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
We'll see you all next week. Take care.
Connections Radio Show is all about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful